Namaskar and welcome back to Media Scan, your weekend dose of headlines, controversies and perspectives. Colonial markers are finally being replaced by names, symbols and practices reflecting India's own ethos. As one relic after another gets erased out, we discuss what this means for the nation and our people. But first up, what made news? As Prime Minister Narendra Modi unveiled the iconic statue of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose in the canopy which once displayed the British King statue, yet another relic from our colonial past got phased out from the national capital. From hundreds of redundant laws to replacing the British-era Navy ensign to renaming important streets, islands and memorials, India under Narendra Modi is constantly trying to erase outdated colonial markers and reflect the true Indian spirit. The renaming of Rajpath to Kartavya and the installation of the Netaji statue are just two more significant steps in that direction. As headlines showed how India had pipped Great Britain to become the fifth largest economy in the world, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman indicated this was just the beginning and soon we may scale the third position. In a recent event, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said this achievement has given us confidence to work even harder and achieve even bigger goals in this Amrit Kaal. As several recent reports have indicated, the Indian economy is constantly on an upward trajectory despite the challenges of a post-pandemic time. Calling India a tested friend, Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina appreciated India's historic support in the liberation war of her country. PM Hasina's visit is the third during Prime Minister Modi's regime. 7 memoranda of understanding were signed between the two countries, from cooperation in the railways ranging to broadcasting technology. Both the neighbours have also agreed to start negotiations for a comprehensive economic partnership agreement. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi embarked on his much publicised Bharat Jodo Yatra earlier this week. The yatra was flagged off after the Wayanad MP paid tributes at Sri Perumbudur, where former PM Rajiv Gandhi fell prey to a suicide bomb attack. The 3,500-kilometer yatra is scheduled from Kanyakumari to Kashmir. BJP commented that the Congress MP must save his own party first before worrying about the country. The cabinet this week gave sanction to a unique scheme called PM Shri, which will help in preparing students with knowledge and skills befitting the 21st century. More than 14,500 government schools would be upgraded all over the country under the scheme, with a sanctioned budget of rupees 27,360 crore for now. PM Shri or PM Schools for Rising India would reflect all the key components of the new education policy. Viewers, just the last week we were discussing on Media Scan how the new Navy ensign was unfurled in front of all of us. And this week, all of you have been witness to the overwhelming moment when the statue of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was unveiled at the canopy which once held the statue of the British Emperor King George V. Questions are being raised that when the British Raj is as much a part of our history as any other period, why is there a need to erase or rid ourselves of these colonial markers? Let us try to understand from our experts what they have to say. I have here with me my first guest for the evening, Shekhar Iyer, former editor, senior political analyst. He is known to speak his mind and you have been listening to him on Media Scan on various earlier episodes. Welcome back, Shekhar Iyer.
Thank you, Smitaji. Thank you for having me on your show.
And the first question comes to you, Mr. Iyer. As you just heard, a lot of questions, commentaries I have been reading and hearing on television saying it's not really mature for a nation, for a sovereign country to get rid of its past, because whether it is the British Raj or the Mughal period or any such part of our history, it remains a part of our history which our children must know about. How much do you agree with this theory or the philosophy? And do you think it is essential for a sovereign country to get rid of such colonial markers and hangover?
Smitaji, I believe we have in fact delayed too much. In fact, we have left these things continue for a long time because of our inability to appreciate and understand the significance of these symbols in our life and in our country. You know, the fact that before independence, a place called, a public thoroughfare called Kingsway was renamed as Rajpath by going by a literal translation, instead of utilizing the opportunity provided by the independence to go for a complete change. See, at least Rashtrapati Bhavan was previously known as Viceregal Lodge. It was changed. Similarly, there are several things that should have changed, because change reflects the spirit in which the independence was fought, and finally we got our independence. That it has taken such a long time, and that too when we are celebrating 75 years of independence, shows that our tolerance level to these symbols, which actually present a period when we were ruled by a foreign country. But after 75 years, today we are an independent nation. We are a nation that is full of confidence of our future, and we are marching ahead on several factors. And you are seeing how our economy is growing. You are seeing how our people are achieving excellence in several fields, from IT to sports. So when so many things are happening, why should we cling on to these things? What do these bring? And also there are still critics and cynics among us who think that this name change will bring nothing. This is only a change of name. See, there is no answer to what the skeptics can say, because they can always go on saying nothing will happen, same things will remain changed. I have no answer for that. But the fact remains, when you change an important thoroughfare in the heart of Delhi from Rajpath to Kartavya Path, it has a big meaning. And that is what the Prime Minister has been saying right from Red Fort, even before that we have to get out of this colonial mindset. We have to get out of the feeling that, we have to prove ourselves to the outside world. If that be the case, do you think the name of Calcutta could have become Kolkata? Would the city of Madras would have become Chennai? Or Mumbai, which was previously known as Bombay, would have also remained so? Now, if these changes are important, it is also important that we must appreciate that there are certain, leftovers of the British Raj, which have to be, undergo a change. That is why what has happened on September 8th is a very important change, Smitaji.
Mr. Iyer, you just mentioned about the critics raising the issues about, some changes being only in name or perhaps cosmetic even, as they said. And this is the right time to welcome on the show my second guest for the evening, Professor Hiraman Tiwari, a well-known historian, an expert on ancient, medieval and modern issues. And so, this is the right time to put the first question to him. But before that, welcome back to Media Scan, Professor Hiraman Tiwari.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Netaji. Great to be here.
Very happy you could join us right in the middle of the discussion, Professor Tiwari. And here's the first question to you, sir. You just heard Shekhar Iyer tell us that not only does he think it is essential to get rid of these colonial markers and names and symbols, but he thinks it's been long overdue. My question to you, sir, as a historian who believes in the connection of the present with the past, do you also agree with him, sir? And is it just cosmetic changes that we are talking about when we change the name of a building, a memorial or a street? Or do you think it has a deeper message and significance?
Smitaji, thank you very much for having me. You have asked 3 questions, and yes, first of all, let me tell you that I entirely agree with our very senior journalist and thinker Shekhar Ayerji when he says that when you want to present India in the 21st century, a new India, young India, you need to have a particular face. And it's not a cosmetic change, I must say, of the what was earlier known as Central Vista. It is now Kartavya Path from Rajpath. He quite rightly told you that Rajpath was a straightforward translation into Hindi from English, which was earlier the King's Way. What a poignant moment, he would agree with me, that after 111 years, when in 1911, the King George V's statue was installed there, the Darbar was brought here. Now these are the vestiges of our past, which of course represent, as Shekharji said, some sort of, not only slavery, but certainly the colonized area of our country, of our world, where somebody else was ruling us. Now, as he says, we are independent, we are vibrant, we are young, we are powerful country, we must have our own identity. So it's not just a cosmetic change, we must arrest our past, we must retrieve our past, and we have had the argument been floated for a long time that one of the ways to repair the past is to do something about it, and it is just to get rid of the names because they are of no use to us. Nothing has been destroyed, only things have been made beautiful. The third point that I want to make, Smitaji, here is that this place, which is a power of, or the center of India's political power, this is the face to the world. You go to any capital of the world, to London, to Washington, to Moscow, to Rome, to France, where you see some sort of grandeur of power, that where, of course, the people of India have vested the power for people to help and rule, and therefore this becomes a face, a great diplomatic international face of India. So why not? And finally, I would say, what better moment there could be than our first Prime Minister of so-called, at that time, Free India, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, will be standing and watching over that 3-kilometer long Kartavya Path to remind those who are sitting in those offices what kind of duty they have brought into their office and how they should serve India. So I think it is most appropriate, as Shekharji said, one of the 5 Pancha Prana that Prime Minister Modi on the 15th of August had mentioned. One of them was to get rid of this mind, slavish mind, this Macaulay kind of mind, and that is what has been done. It is wonderful. It is to be celebrated.
Yes, and one of the Pancha Pran that the Prime Minister had articulated, being proud of our glorious past, also connects with this other Pancha Pran, that is, we have to get rid of the slavery mindset. But on that point, I want to bring back Shekhar Iyer into the discussion. Since you mentioned about all the debate over Netaji, Mr. Iyer, you know that the entire legacy of Netaji has been prone to a lot of political debate, and even on Thursday, we saw some reflection of it when Mamata Banerjee tried to raise the issue of not coming to the event because she thought it was not, the invite was not made in an appropriate manner. Why is Netaji's legacy, why is Netaji's contribution always turning into a political debate whenever the moment arises, whether it is declassification of files, whether it is honoring his memory or the connection with his current family, etc.?
Smitaji, you know, it is a fact that some parties have inherited a past where they have ignored Netaji's contribution for very obvious political reasons. See, after all, Netaji was also one of the leading lights of the Congress movement. But he differed with others because he felt that if we have to get independence on our own strength, it required a path different from what Gandhiji or Nehruji were proposing. So he chose his path, and his belief was that we could no longer depend on the, you know, the person who is ruling us to, you know, finally one day decide to give it to us. We have to fight for our freedom. That is the spirit in which Netaji, you know, set out about his task.
But I'll interrupt you here, Mr. Iyer. And my straight question to you is, India is a vast country with all the diversities included, and the freedom struggle was a mammoth movement we all know about. It was bound to have various streams of thought and philosophies. I mean, what was so strange about one leader not agreeing with the method of the other? Why deny him or her the legacy, the memory in the nation?
No, Smitaji, you know for a fact that our first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, had strong difference of opinion with Netaji. And therefore, when at the time of independence, you have seen how efforts were made not to recognize the sacrifices made by the Azad Hindu Fauj. And not only that, even after independence, the many cases were not withdrawn against them. I mean, we know that part of history. And can you imagine in a place like Delhi, which is the capital of our country, they could not find a suitable place for Netaji statue for such a long time?
Absolutely.
Because I think, Smitaji, we'll have to call the spade for the simple reason. The Congress party and the leadership then realized that if we have to give importance or prominence or even acknowledge the contribution made by any other leader apart from, the Nehru Parivar, that means, we are compromising our importance.
And perhaps that is why.
And that is the reason why it has taken such a long time. See this canopy, which was vacant for such a long time, even after King George V statue was removed. Why it took such a long time? Why were successive governments unable to decide, well, this is the place where Netaji statue should come? Why was
and
it
I
denied?
think that is why, Mr. Iyer, it wasn't surprising.
Smitaji, one point.
Yes, please make your point.
Now, these leaders are worried. If Prime Minister Modi ji has taken this decision, the credit will go to him. Then what happens to us? Because we are also claimants to that Netaji's legacy. See, that is the political motive of these leaders, where they are, taking recourse to very petty reasons, saying some undersecretary wrote to me, so I will not attend. I mean, if you have, see, a time has come. We will have to honor our leaders. Yesterday we saw most emotional moments, Smitaji. I want to tell our viewers, just before Prime Minister inaugurated the statue of Netaji, several veterans of INA, they were literally tears rolling down their cheeks to say, we can't believe that our leader is being honored today and it has taken such a long time. Can you understand the emotion of these people?
Mr. Iyer, we saw all those veterans break into tears. Their voices were completely choked at the overwhelming moment that they were witnessing, and that is why we believe that politics may come and go, but these are the moments which remain to be cherished. But on that point, let me include Professor Tiwari on one another aspect of this complex debate. Professor Tiwari, you are a historian and you have been studying the subject, I know, in great detail. We know that a lot has been done in the past few years, whether it is phasing out many redundant laws of the British period, not only some renaming or rechristening in the national capital, but various important centers of the country, including in Kolkata, the Andaman Islands, etc. But what more do you think, sir, is needed at this point in the coming days to be phased out in order to actually prove that we are in a country of Swaraj, not in the hangover of a foreign colonial Raj?
Absolutely right. And Sati, you said it, and Shekharji touched upon earlier that this is not the first occasion that any renaming is happening. Actually, it is not a renaming, I would say. It's a celebration of Netaji, the great leader that India has had. All of us know as young children, every time we heard the name Subhash Chandra Bose, Netaji, our hair would stand on end. So he's a great personality to be celebrated in the center of power in Delhi. Such a vast country, such a powerful country. So if we are going to be New India, as you mentioned, there are so many other things that need to be done. And as the Prime Minister has articulated on the 15th of August, what are the 5 resolutions that we all should take to bring this country to a level where we do not have any hangover, to use your word. And more importantly, as Shekharji just mentioned, I mean, if you want to look into the history, you have to see that our history was wounded, much wounded. And Azad Hind Fauj, nobody came to their rescue. As he quite rightly mentioned, they were called traitors, the cases were not withdrawn. So obviously there is a jubilation among those who are still alive or those of us who have read about them. So it brings a very emotional, you can see a journalist, an intellectual like Shekhar Iyer, he himself is getting emotional while speaking about it. So we do need to think about our history, our past, and we cannot simply, there are so many other aspects which perhaps we do not want to sully the discussion about talking about something which is not that pleasant. And most importantly of all, Shekharji again said that after all, Netaji too was one of the great leaders of Congress party of the freedom movement.
Yes, Professor Tiwari, I have very little time left with me, so allow me, sir, to quickly put one question to each of you about how would you suggest a better way to get rid of the colonial mindset and these colonial markers which still continue to, form a part of our life, our governance and administration. One suggestion quickly, Professor.
See, the renaming is perhaps, you could simply say renaming is not an idea that one would simply get excited about when the renaming happens for a particular purpose. As it happened yesterday, as I said, it's the center of power, and this Rajpath, which was a direct translation of the King's Way, Rajpath, and now it has been renamed Kartavya Path. And as the Prime Minister said, that every time you walk on it or you walk around it, you remember of your duties. You are not the lord of the place, but you are a servant of the place. Similarly, this mindset in language, in education, in other spheres, if we try and remove it and become more and more Atmanirbhar, that of course will be a great tribute to this great country.
Right. And in fact, I believe the new education policy, that is exactly what it aims to bring about by changing the entire curriculum.
So Indian languages, regional languages Indian languages are being promoted, and we have great languages from the south to the north. Why not promote them? And of course, let English be also there, which we are using as we are broadcasting this program. So that is what is called assimilation and celebration of multiplicity. But we must give every indication that we are not only Atmanirbhar, but we are very, very confident nation.
And Shekhar Iyer, it is always said that, in the entire creation of a thought process, in the entire narrative in a nation, the media plays the most important role. Since this is Media Scan, I must ask you, Mr. Iyer, how do you think can the media help and contribute in ridding us of our colonial hangovers, at least in one or two ways? Quickly, please.
Smitaji, we must stop looking for validation from outside. Every time something is written in a foreign newspaper about us, we get exercised. We say, New York Times said this, Washington Post said this, Guardian said this. Okay, they are free to say what they want to say. But, when we look at ourselves, when we look at our strengths, with our challenges, with our problems, we need to validate our own strength. We have to believe in ourselves that we are moving forward. Instead of simply, going by what critics say outside, and then go on a self-flagellation. That is very important. When we are completing 75 years of independence, we should stop, blaming ourselves or, beating ourselves just because somebody else feels that we have not done enough or we have not qualified enough. Yes, all criticisms are welcome, but at the same time, we must realize the challenges we face as a nation, no one else has faced. The kind of problems we have faced, no one else has faced. And we are a nation not just 75 years old, we are a nation more than 5,000 years of continuous history. With several things that has happened. That is something the media must remember always while, giving a narrative of today.
So you are saying that India with its glorious past is not in a position or does not need to seek validation or certification from any outside powers, because it is time to come out and emerge as a confident nation, as a country which is proud to hold its head high in the Committee of Nations. But on that point, gentlemen, it's really, I have really overshot my time by many minutes. Allow me to thank you very much, Shekhar Iyer, for your patience and for explaining those issues so well and so boldly to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Professor Tiwari, so quick to join us whenever we have requested him on our show. We were greatly enriched by your thoughts and your suggestions on the show, sir. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Netaji. Always pleasure to be on your show. Thank you.
Viewers, both our guests were very clearly agreed on two things. The first being that it is high time that India has to get rid of the hangovers and the mindsets of the colonial period if India needs to emerge as an Atmanirbhar, as a proud, a confident country. But at the same time, more efforts are required in this direction, and in the coming days we will surely get to see much more being done. On that note, it's a wrap up on Media Scan for this evening. But do keep watching DD India as we shall continue to scan the media for you. Namaskar.